Hello, good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, or good morning, even doesn't matter. But the main thing is, my next guest today is a 8-time WWF Hardcore Champion. He's a 2-time ECW World Tag Team Champion. Also, it doesn't even get any better than this. He's a former ECW World Heavyweight Champion. My guest today, not just the coolest, he's not the best. That, my friend, what do you call it, podcast? He's just incredible. How you doing today, mate? You all right?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Had a pretty good
Good.
weekend. You know, it's been pretty chilled. But the main thing is I actually get to speak to you, which is fucking awesome. So thank you for coming onto the show today. I do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. What part of the world are you from?
I'm actually in Essex. So best way
right on.
to say to someone that's not really familiar with it, it's outside of London.
Okay.
So
Okay.
have you been to Essex? Probably not, maybe.
I'm not sure. I've spent a lot of time in England, but I'm not too sure if I've been to Essex. I know I've been to Birmingham, been to London, some other places, but right now, you know what I mean? When you're on a tour bus and you're just, going. But I've spent quite a bit of time there,
Nice. No, that's good.
Yes.
So hopefully you get to come back here once this pandemic ends.
I would love to. I always say it's getting harder and harder now to wrestle overseas for whatever reason. I know even pre-pandemic. But I'm 47, which, it's not that I'm the oldest, but it means that, chances are slimmer and slimmer. But I would love to go to England one last time because the fans there are bar none the best in the world, easily. It's always been one of my favorite places to perform. So I'd love to go one more time, man.
Hopefully we get to see you back here, mate. That'd be awesome.
That'd be brilliant. Absolutely.
So we're gonna basically discuss your career because it's about you today.
Right.
And I know, like, essentially, you've been in the career for nearly 30 years now. So we're going to sort of go back to the beginning and also discuss what actually made you a fan of professional wrestling.
Wow. I guess like a lot of people, I was probably 10 years old. And the first match I saw ever on television was Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik, when Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik for the original WWF heavyweight title. And it was the birth of WrestleMania, really. Or not WrestleMania, Hulkamania. I'm sorry.
That's right.
And from then on, I just fell in love with all things pro wrestling, just everything. And as I got older, instead of like most kids, they kind of let it go and they move on to other things. I got more and more into it, where I started doing backyard wrestling at 15 and 16, and I just loved it so much that when I turned 18, I didn't want to go to university, so I saved up enough money to go to wrestling school, and that's what I did.
And when you did make that journey into wrestling school, it wasn't like many other people. You actually went to Canada, is that correct?
Yes,
and to the Hart camp, and that was under Keith Hart. And you'd also meet your future tag team partner, Lance Storm. What was Lance Storm like? First impressions?
He was really cool, very quiet, kind of, because he was a bit of a rookie himself. He came through the Hart camp in 1990. Him and Jericho were part of the same class. I came in a bit later in summer of 92, but, he was quiet, kind of like what you see today, but a lot more shy. He wasn't so confident, but, very, very structured, very responsible. He was like the young old man in the room. Even though he was, 23 years old, he still was like old. He seemed older and wiser than all of us who were kind of messing around sometimes, and he was always like the dad, in the room.
So it wasn't just a gimmick then. Anytime you want to be serious.
Because that really was Lance. But also he had you had to get to know him, but he had a very soft and funny side. But even his jokes were just very dry. Best way I could say it is very Canadian, which is like that very, very serious but dry sense of humor, for sure.
What was your reaction to when you actually got a win over IRS? I don't know why. I kind of remember it. I'm a lot older than you probably think, by the way. I'm actually quite. We're in my 30s, but
Okay.
Well, I do remember it as a kid, and I just sort of want your reaction and how how's you told?
Well, they just basically told me out of nowhere. It wasn't like a big deal or anything. You know, they told me about it like very matter of fact, IRS, and you know, Razor's going to come down and you'll roll him up 1, 2, 3. That's, you know, any questions? And I'm like, what? I rolled him.
Are you sure?
And then and then just get out of the ring. You know, just run out of the ring real quick. And I'm like, does IRS know this? Is he aware of this? You know. And of course, IRS being the, you know, Bray Wyatt, the Fiend's dad, believe it or not, that's when you know we're getting old. That's how it kind of the ball started moving, because they liked me as a young guy. They thought I had some ability, so they started giving me little opportunities here and there.
I was actually going to come to one of the big opportunities that you would receive, essentially when the World Cup was happening in America in '94, and I'm sort of smiling about this because I'm happy that I get to talk about it. Aldo Montoya. And the Portuguese Man of War. Some people, I think most people that are going to listen to this interview will know, but some people may not know. Can you describe who Aldo Montoya was and how it was pitched to you?
Sure. Well, I have to say the story because it all has it's all quite fascinating. Originally, like where we left off, I was doing jobs for the WWF, the old WWF back in the day, being used more and more. I got the win over IRS. So then I get a call from Tony Gurria, who was the guy in the office that would call the extras. And he's like, PJ, because I live 45 miles, about 60 kilometers from my home to Stamford to the office. And he's like, we need you to come down, and we were setting up a ring, and, you know, to work out with Undertaker and Brian Lee, who's going to come in and do the fake Undertaker gimmick. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. So they would pay me $150 a day just to go in for the Monday through Friday and just work out with them as he perfected the Undertaker gimmick. So we work all week, just Brian, myself, and Mark. So Friday comes, and we find out that Vince wants dress rehearsal. So Vince comes down. Brian Lee gets dressed in the Undertaker gear, makeup, everything. On myself, I get my tights, my boots, everything. So we have an audience of 3. It's Undertaker, Vince McMahon, and Pat Patterson. Probably 3 of the most powerful people in the business at the time.
Oh yeah.
And we're you know, putting this dry run through. So we get through it. Everything was cool. You know, I thank everyone, whatever. And Pat Patterson comes up to me, and he starts asking me questions. Who trained me? You know, the Hearts, blah, blah, blah. Small talk, you know?
Yeah.
And finally, he's like, well, what nationality are you, kid? And I said, well, I'm Portuguese. And Pat goes to Vince. Hey, Vince, this kid, he's Portuguese. And Vince kind of smiled. And I'm like, what the fuck? What's the big deal? I'm Portuguese. You know, like, okay, that's
what was
weird.
That sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's like weird, you know, okay. But, you know, whatever. So we keep talking some more. And he goes, do you speak it? And I said, well, sir, you know, my folks immigrated to America in 1970. I was born here in 73. But long story short, I speak Portuguese because that's what I spoke growing up. I learned Portuguese really before I learned English.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, hey, Vince, this kid speaks Portuguese. And all of a sudden, Vince gets real serious. Very good. Gives you one of those. And anyways, long story. He was looking for a Portuguese character the whole time because the World Cup was coming along and business was bad in America. House shows and so forth were not doing well. And like Davey Boy did in Great Britain and England, and a lot of others did all over the world. You know, he wanted me to go to South America, to Brazil, which is a Portuguese speaking country. Although I'm from Europe, Portugal, whatever, I guess they didn't know the difference, but nonetheless, it was an opportunity, and the character was then born. And the reason I say World Cup is because Aldo was originally supposed to be a Portuguese soccer player until they changed it.
Were you actually any good at like soccer? Sorry, I know you guys call it soccer, but I have to call it football. Sorry,
football. Yeah. Well, like I said, my dad's full. I mean, I'm full Portuguese, so he coached my high school team. I played, So yeah. I mean, I wasn't like great, but I certainly played organized
knew the basics.
Football.
You were pretty.
Yeah. I played organized football all throughout my high school and stuff. I was pretty good.
Was there any plan for you to come out sort of in the entrance ramp, like kicking a ball or something?
We originally had spoken about that, even for merchandise, like have how they have the soccer net full of balls, and maybe come out on the ramp and kick a couple to the audience. But
that would have been awesome, man.
It would have been cool, but it was number 3, by the way. I had long hair, and it was a big number 3 on it. I had the soccer shoes and the big socks all the way up to my knees, and soccer shorts and a shirt. But that never happened. And we went with the Aldo Montoya Power Ranger kind of, because the original designs, and I don't have either. They actually showed me the original Aldo. So I have it somewhere. I'd love to find it someday. But the Aldo I know. But the Aldo Montoya from the Power Ranger one actually looked like a Power Ranger. Like I looked like an action hero, like an Avenger. I had shoulder pads. I had cool mask, not that jock strap. I had long flowing hair. It looked really neat, but it was what it was. And either way, I was getting an opportunity of a lifetime, and signing with the WWE or WWF, a 3-year contract at the time was, I was like one of the youngest superstars ever to sign. So I was super happy,
When is it that you found out ECW was going out of business? Was it through Paul Heyman or the internet or someone backstage?
It wasn't through Paul. It was through just everyone else. He was always lying, and not because he wanted to be a dick about it. Just he was always trying to put out a good picture of what was happening. I found out through other channels. None of them were Paul. He was lying till the end, all the way till the end, to the point where I wrestled the last match, which was a house show in the middle of nowhere, in March, I believe, March of 2001. And I'm literally, I called Jim Ross. I signed a contract, and I'm on my way to the building to make my debut to form X Factor. And Heyman calls me. This is like just when cell phones were really a thing. Like everybody was starting to have them. But they were still like $3 a minute. Anyways, so he calls me and he starts yelling at me. How could you do this to me? Leave ECW. I'm trying to get a TV deal, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Paul, are you kidding me? I have to pay my bills. I have a family. I'm about to have I just had a newborn. He's less than a year old. Whatever. So I get to the building. And when I get to the building, guess who's debuting on commentary?
Was that the same night?
Yeah. The same night Paul Heyman debuted. He was already at the building, and he's making me feel bad, calling me, like almost trying to get into my head.
So he's guilt tripping you when he's literally at the same show.
He was there before I was, dude. Literally in the building. So you had to, that's when I knew that everything was so full of shit that I'm glad. I just wish I would have probably done it beforehand. But I wasn't in ECW for him or to fuck him. I was in ECW for me because it was a great fit for me, and the fans were great for me. I didn't do any of that for him, so whatever. He was just such a low-life scumbag, because he could have made so many people's lives a bit easier by just being honest.
Yeah.
Even though it would have been a bitter pill to swallow, at least we all knew where we stand. I don't know what the benefit was to telling people there was still hope when obviously there was none.
But he knew.
Of course he knew. I mean, shit. But still, he tried to make me feel bad, like I'm leaving. How dare I leave when we're still trying? And like, how are you trying when you're there too? It's like I should have done this a long time ago. I was the mark, believe it or not, for sticking around as long as I did.
Yeah.
That's where I wish,
Obviously,
because Lance went to WCW, got paid that great WCW money, got rich off of it, and my mark ass stayed with ECW to become. I'm marked out for the title, became ECW world title, but Lance became rich. Guess what? I think I made a mistake because the ECW title was fake, and I'd rather have money.
did
But
WCW try to contact you near the end? Because I know they were reaching
no.
out to a lot of ECW talent. But
Yeah, at that time they were in so much trouble that no, and I had a pretty solid contract that I don't think they knew who they could mess with and they knew who they couldn't. And I was always kind of like considered one of Paulie's guys, so Bischoff never kind of came near me.
No, that's fair enough, mate. So, so in the WWE, you return. I actually didn't know, by the way, it was actually JR that got you the job back, because a lot of people would assume it was actually. Some people would assume it would have been Paul Heyman looking out for his guys, because I know Tommy Dreamer said that he helped him, but I've heard that sometimes, but.
No, I was because I'd worked with JR previously as Aldo and stuff, so I went right to JR. Thank God.
With X Factor, I think you've pretty much answered half this question. So you already knew you was coming into X Factor. Did you know it's going to be with Albert as well?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Okay, what was your first impression of basically Albert? I was going to say Prince Albert, but
I was happy. I was happy with him. He's a super. Matt Bloom is a super nice guy. He's still there working with the Performance Center. He's a stand-up dude.
Yeah.
Like you heard, and a lot of people know, Sean Waltman and I are friends, still are. Yeah. So we thought it was a great opportunity for us to kind of work as a tag team, because this is like the culmination of the Rock and Austin era. I mean, business was hot,
booming,
and for us to be a good punk heel tag team to go up against the Dudleys or the Hardys, what we thought is a great opportunity. So, we were both very, very excited about it. And Albert was going to kind of be like our Kevin Nash, like the big guy in the corner to help the two little guys.
The two little super kicking people, and
right. So that was the whole point of it. Unfortunately, it didn't work as well as we wanted it to, for whatever reason. I think a lot of it was they were planning on running with the Alliance, and because that kind of all happened so quickly, like, you know what I mean?
So much must have been going on. You come back, WCW out of business, ECW's out of business, WrestleMania 17, wrestling period booming, and then the Alliance, and then you've just literally made your return to WWE as Justin,
right?
As opposed to PJ Plaga or Aldo
Montoya. So, it was hard too. Like, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you, And the biggest problem was that when WCW was bought by Vince, they wanted me to go with the Alliance, ECW, WCW, and they wanted X-Pac to go with the WWF. So they broke up the team prematurely.
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed about that back in the day.
Yeah, and they just simply put us with individual teams, because the Alliance versus the WWF was the big gimmick. So we got the short end of the stick on that, which could have been a great storyline in the future, but that was the focus going forward.
Was, sort of picking up a bit of momentum, like you're saying, you was working with the
Dudleys, we could have been a hell of a heel
APA,
team,
and you just sort of were having a lot of TV time, and you had a little segment as well, like X-Pac was champion, Albert was champion, and they sort of were rubbing it in, but like not intentionally. Sort of segments like that I quite enjoyed.
I remember those.
Just sort of ended abruptly, which is a bit of a shame. But when you did go to WWE, we actually saw a lot of change. Though you got to keep your name, you switched from jeans to tights. Essentially, you was given a different theme song as well.
Yes.
The character presentation, essentially, did they just do it and not give you a reason, or did they say, look, we need to sort of modify your gimmick a bit?
There was really no reason. I mean, I did wear jean shorts for the first couple of months,
Yeah.
but then Hunter, Triple H, who me and Kid were traveling with, it used to be me, Kid, Hunter, and William Regal. Us four used to travel together, and this is when Hunter was first traveling with, or first dating Stephanie. So he was still kind of kayfabe. And Hunter's like, Steve Austin, Steve wears the jean shorts. He goes, you and Kid should look alike. So I got those black and grays to kind of black, gray, and blue to kind of match Kid's outfit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the character was essentially supposed to stay the same. Unfortunately, without television time, without interview time, the character doesn't shine because I'm just like anyone else without a microphone. You can't develop. So, it was what it was. It was just, but it was the only explanation I can honestly give is so much was going on that they were just trying to keep everything afloat, worrying about the main events. And a lot of us just got caught in the shuffle, including X-Pac in those days, and X Factor certainly suffered,
Yeah, and I do remember reading on the dirt sheets that essentially it was to do with Austin like demanding a change because you looked similar.
No, he didn't demand a change. He
Yeah.
was, because Steve. I've been on Steve's podcast twice. He's a good friend of
I've
mine.
listened to them. Good episodes, by the way.
Yeah, he's awesome. It was just more like less us, us trying to look like a team, more than anything. But I don't regret
it. Does make sense as well. Like the attire was quite similar,
right? Yeah, because with the jean shorts and he has tights, I wanted us to look like a team, So, yeah.
So I was just going to say, what was whilst we're wrapping up your return story, because you would actually be back again, but before we get to the WWE's version of ECW, out of your last matches in your run, it was one of them, because I think your actual official match was against Test, but one of them was against a young Dave Bautista. What was he like? And could you see that there was going to be a big star in the making?
Oh yeah, I totally saw Dave being a huge star. I mean, he was just so awesome. I mean, his physical condition he was in, the look. I mean, he was money, and he was easy to work with, and a super nice guy. So I saw that coming a mile away. He was awesome, bar none.
Was he quite easy to work with as well?
Oh, very. Yeah. He's to this day one of the easiest, gentlest people I've ever worked with. Really cool dude. Yeah. On national television, and you had TV for those 10 years, it almost is like you're older than you are in the people's eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get you.
So yeah, sometimes it was a negative. I think I needed a fresh start, and I think what I did wrong was maybe hold on to what was, instead of trying to kind of roll with the punches and roll with the times, and perhaps change my style and my look.
Just reinvent.
Reinvent would have definitely been smart, but I didn't. And in 2000, I know you were going to get to it, but in 2005, the rehash of ECW with One Night Stand kind of gave me a reason not to, because they wanted me to be the exact same guy I was, almost a decate ago.
And if you change your look, fans may have not recognized you.
Exactly. So I didn't have and I also didn't have the proper TV to kind of get behind the change, because what does it matter if you change in front of a couple thousand people, not a couple million on television? So I never really had the opportunity to do it with a promotion, so to speak, to get behind it with a push.
What did you think of? I know you've just mentioned One Night Stand, but you've also worked the Hardcore Homecoming show as well. What did you think of? I want to say one or the other, but I just want to sort of summarize it as all as one. What did you think of the idea of bringing back ECW? Did you enjoy seeing your old colleagues and friends, or was it just like it's just not the same?
I did enjoy it. The first One Night Stand was very much the same, and I thought they had one shot. And after the first original 2005 One Night Stand, they could have pulled it off if they went full ECW, if they really committed to going all the way. And some people were told that it was going to be, and they certainly had the intentions. But as the ball started to roll, Vince started to not help himself and put WWE guys in the fold. And, when it finally started, and I was CM Punk's, speaking of another debut, I was CM Punk's debut match in the WWF or WWE.
At the Hammerstein Ballroom as well.
At the Hammerstein, yeah. So he was supposed to be the leader of the new ECW, but WWE had already, I guess, not intentionally, but in their minds were
they made their mind up. They were like, okay, we're going to go Big Show and Lashley, and
and they could have got the old guys. I mean, the old ECW, and maybe started, just almost started. They could have started where we left off. Because it wasn't that long of a time, and maybe bring in like guys like the CM Punk into the fold, which would have rejuvenated the company. But to put those guys with me or RVD or whomever, but they chose not to, and they went with the Lashley.
We saw what happened. Like 3 years,
and basically, long story real short. Not to bore you, but I get bored talking about it. In 2007, I didn't get fired. I quit, and I'm glad to say I finally quit.
What made you quit, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Everything. The fact that they were taking my ECW legacy away, making me job out to everyone like Kurt Angle, which is not a big deal to job to Kurt Angle.
But the way you did job out, though,
just the way,
2 minutes.
Yeah, to everyone, and I was just like, nope, because my pay was $75,000 a year. That's an insult. And we were not just me. Sandman was getting it. Dreamer was getting it. We were all getting the same. But that, for $75,000 a year, you're not going to kill what I have, my legacy. So I quit.
It's like you're really like screwing me over the pay, but it's like don't destroy my identity as well.
Yep, and I quit. I'm glad to this day. That's something I'm proud of.
No, that's fair enough, to be honest, because obviously, obviously you quit, and then it was another 2 years, and let's be honest, no one looks back at ECW, sort of in a positive light. It was terrible.
Yep. Yeah, it was horrible.
I didn't really enjoy it, to be honest. I mean, it had the odd positive when Christian came, but that's it.
Yeah, but it was a C show, and it was nothing what it.
It was nothing to do with ECW. Let's be honest.
Right, ECW was born out of being the rebels. We were the little guys, and you can't make ECW fight the machine when you're owned by the machine. Yeah. It's like that band Rage Against the Machine. The band Rage Against the Machine. You can't rage against the machine that owns you. Yeah. Because you become the machine.
I mean, the machine became the champion, for goodness sake.
Yeah, it's a joke. It was a joke, so fuck it.
But it's in the past that it's done now, and I'm but I can look back and just separate that from ECW, which a lot of fans can. So you just got to laugh about it now. That's the main thing,
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely.
Laugh about it, really. What was Paul Heyman like at that time, by the way? Just before we wrap up that ECW one, was he non-existent?
He was non-existent. He was non-existent in his own thing, just doing his own on his own path. Paul really distanced himself from the guys and from ECW. Paul's a brilliant businessman, and he kind of knew that, once he started this journey with the WWE, that, he saw the writing on the wall, and he knew, I think he knew that the Brock thing was coming, and, he was just ready to move on. I think everybody was ready to move on at that point,
No, that's fair enough, mate.